In his season-ending press conference, Mickey Loomis referenced that currently the Saints have 61 players on their roster. While that's technically true, it's not 100% accurate. We're going to take a look at the roster. We're going to break it down position by position. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So, what do I mean by 61, not quite an accurate number on our existing roster right now? Well, show you what I'm talking about. There are 61 roster players, 4 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, a couple little hinky things going on here. One of them is you're counting 9 offensive linemen, but one of them is Ryan Ramczyk, and he's going to retire. So it's actually 60 players on the roster is a real number. Wide receiver, we have 6. Linebacker, 6. Defensive back, 8. Basically, our special team are only type guys, 5, including 2 kickers. So that may or may not be a real number there because I don't think we're going to carry 2 kickers on our 53. But you kind of got some weird numbers also at tight end. Technically, you have 6, but one of them is Juwan Johnson, who has a voided contract, which means he has not a penny of salary. All it is void years. I think 3 or 4, just dead money that's split up right now. And if we don't pay him, give him a new contract, he's going to be gone, and the dead money all accelerates into this year. Same thing with Young and Passanyow on the defensive line. So that 12 is really 10 for the D line. Tight ends, it's really 5 until you pay those 3 guys. So you have 1 guy retiring, 3 guys that are technically on the roster, but they're not going to be on the roster till you give them an actual contract. So that 61 is now looking at 57. Of the remaining 57, I have 3 highlighted: Shaheed, Hill, and Ford. And I'm thinking you can probably guess why they're highlighted. That's basically our 3 guys that they had a bit of a injury history. Shaheed and Hill a little bit. Hill a little bit more than Shaheed, but they both had season-ending injuries, middle of the season. Ford had a season-ending injury at the end of the season. All 3 of them were bad leg injuries. You don't know how that's going to turn out, in the sense we typically have a bad problem with the Saints in the offseason, getting the news from somebody with the organization going, well, their rehab's not going quite like we thought it was, and they may or may not be ready. So hopefully we don't hear that on any of those 3. And by the time Ford, that happened in the Raiders game, that's so late, I don't, could be a passing out or Nephi Sewell situation that we had this year, where it was towards the back end of the season before they even close to being ready to come on the field. But you have some hope that Shaheed and Hill will be ready. You just don't know. So of that remaining 57, you've got 3, I'm going to say big question marks, some bigger than others. You don't know how it's going to turn out, but it could affect your overall roster number. So for my intents and purposes, I'm willing to keep those 3 in, but basically we're about ready to break down the 57, because until something changes, Johnson, Young, and Passanyow are not on this team in 2025. So we'll take a look at the rest, kind of break down the numbers position by position. I'm going to kind of break down the remaining, like I said, 57 or so. And I'm kind of putting in 3 categories. So let me explain the numbers you're about ready to see. Kind of looked at it as basically 3 categories. And this is not scientific. This is completely subjective. So right off the top, I'm pretty sure as you're watching this, you're going to look at a player I have in a certain category and go, no, he doesn't belong in that one. He belongs in this one. Odds are I probably wouldn't argue with you, to be honest. There's a lot of guys that unfortunately are kind of which way you're going to view them. But the 3 categories are basically starter level talent. And I am defining that for this purpose as a player that if you looked around the league, you could find 3, 4, 5 teams that would go, yeah, we'd have won more games had we had that guy healthy for 17 games in place up the guy or guys we were trying to play there. My sterling point would be the lightning rod of Saints talk when it comes to the roster and Derek Carr. A healthy Derek Carr for 17 games, we win more than 5. I don't know how many more we win, but I guarantee he's worth at least one, probably in the neighborhood of 2, 3, 4 wins, depending. Just about every team that's picking the top 10 with us, if same thing, a healthy Derek Carr over what they were playing at quarterback, probably pretty much in the same category. That's kind of the criteria I was looking at on this. So you could easily tell me, no, Derek Carr would be a backup on, you know, 28 teams around the league, and I'd go, yeah, you're probably right on that. But there are the other 4 or 5, or whatever the number is. So again, it's totally subjective, but it's just to kind of wrap my head around as we head into this off season. Do we really have a position where we go, man, that's a strength? I know we have plenty where we look at and go, that's a weakness. We've got to do something about that. So the categories I broke it down to is basically starter level talent, solid backup rotational talent. So in the case of Carr, if you want to say, yeah, look, 75% of the league would want him as a backup if they had him. I wouldn't disagree with you if you bumped him down. And the third category is special team guys, developmental guys, possible special team guys that may have to, you've seen them play a little bit, but they may have to come in on a significant role depending. My lightning rod for that would be Rico Payton. When we're in the money situation we are, there's a chance we have to say bye-bye to JT Gray. And then you're looking at Rico Payton going, could he do JT Gray's job? Probably. As well as JT Gray, we'll see. But I think you've got somebody there that would assume Gray's role in special teams. So when you do that and you start looking at it, and that's kind of the breakup. Out of that 57 players, again, assuming that the 3 badly hurt guys will be back and playing this year, I got it at about 15. Carr, Kamara, McCoy, Olave, Shaheed, Hill, Granderson, Davis, Werner, Taylor, McKinstry, Wood, Groupie, Hayball, Gray. It's 15 of our 57. I don't think that's the numbers you're really looking for here. Kind of that backup rotation. Add 8 more. Rattler, who I think showed he can come in and give you something. It wasn't a total loss. He gave us a chance to win a couple of games as a rookie. I don't know what he's going to develop into. So he's one. If you want to put him in the third category, I would not argue with you. But Rattler, Miller, who I would love to put in the first category, we just haven't seen enough of. But Ruiz, Penning, Fuaga, Moreau, Jordan, Brazil. That's 8. And you can find another 10 in that last category, that developmental special teams, possible fill-in at special teams with Hainer, Mims, Saldivari, Means, Austin, Hoker, Orgy, Ford, Payton, and Smith. So I'm looking at this group going, it's kind of hard for me to be overly excited when you are talking about roughly 58% of our roster falls in that category, barely half. Again, of the 57, if you want to count the 4 that right now aren't going to be here, that number is obviously lower. So that's where I started going, well, what is a strength? And when you kind of looking at those names, it's hard to find one, honestly. I mean, the thing that you would hang your hat on would probably be offensive line, oddly enough. Maybe quarterback if Carr comes back, however that works out. Carr, Rattler, we'll see. But right now, I'm going maybe. Maybe you'd say, well, that's the 2 things that we can hang our hat on as a strength. Running back, we're not necessarily bad. It's just how much does Kamara have left and that's going to be a reoccurring theme as we go through this list. And can we keep Miller healthy? If the answers to those are basically we can keep them around and productive, both of them for 17 games, I'd go, I think that could move into the strength category. Tight end, I don't know how that's going to shake out. Defensive line, we know is not. Linebacker used to be, but quite honestly, again, Davis falls into that category. We don't know what we're gonna get out of him. Cam Jordan on the defensive line falls into the same category. Are we going to get end of the year this year Cam if he ends up coming back, or are we getting last year's Cam? You just don't know. Werner is getting, in my opinion, more and more exposed in space by offenses. What I mean by that is I think he's a very good run stopper. He's one of the few we have on the team. Unfortunately, we've got so many holes in stopping the run all around him. It's hard for him to make every tackle when somebody's running the ball. But even worse than that, space is a problem. Third downs are a problem with him. He doesn't rush the passer well, and he can get picked on and exposed in coverage. There's a lot of teams in the league that will have a second linebacker, which is basically what Werner would be for them, where call him a first down linebacker, basically first, second down, running type situations. They'll leave him on the field where they try to protect him a little bit in the passing game, but in obvious long yardage, third and long, second and long passing situations, they'll pull that guy off the field for an extra cover guy or a guy who can cut up. There are linebackers out there who specialize in coverage and rushing the passer. They're going to make that swap. What do we do with Pete Werner in that case? I like our two defensive backs in Taylor and McKinstry. I just right now don't know if we've got anything to put around him. And I like Taylor more on the inside, possibly a move to safety, but it'd be basically his third position move in 2 years. So I don't know if you want to do that, but he may be better fitted to play there, especially a box type safety, because I think that's where he's really, really good. Obviously, rushing the passer, we saw that this year, but I think he plays pretty good in the run game, and having him as a slot corner or as the box safety, I think would benefit him and the team. But I think he's definitely a starter guy, and that may be something you not necessarily strength, but you can look to build around in this draft with some of the defensive backs coming out. Technically, our strongest position group is special teams. I mean, Wood's a solid NFL long snapper, and I know that sounds crazy, but there's teams that don't have good long snappers, and you see the consequences. Groupie had a great year. Hayball probably was the closest thing we could have argued for an all pro in this whole team. JT Gray is one of the best special teamers around. And then you have Smith hanging out back there. Again, if he proves himself, they may give him the shot just to save money because the group is, I think, around 2 million. So this is I mean, I knew things were not great and rosy, optimistic on the roster. I thought it was worse than it was, believe it or not, because I can at least look as we just ran through that position by position and go, I can make a case. I can make a case if you add a little bit or if you build around these guys that we were talking about that are kind of on the upper end of the spectrum. You might have enough there to build a solid offensive line in a relatively short period of time. You might be able to draft one of those top corners, find a safety, either somewhere in the draft or maybe you're able to bring Will Harris back after you get your salary cap fixed or whatever and go, okay, we've got a solid secondary. Something in 2025 where by the end of the season, however it turns out, we can find at least one, two, or three would be better in the shape we're in where we go, we fixed that. Okay. It may not help us win any more games in 2025 if, let's say at 9, we take Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. We slap him opposite of McKinstry. We move Taylor to the box safety. We re-sign veteran Will Harris to handle the back end. Or we find another safety to handle the back end because Harris probably better in the box also. But You get my point, where all of a sudden you end 2025 and you go, okay, we're going to have to shore it up, but it's basically set. Offensive line, Flaga and Penning turn the corner. Boom, you got your tackles. McCoy in the middle. You kind of get that guard thing, especially the left guard. That seems to be the problematic point. You get that figured out at the end of 2025. You're looking at it and going, we're good on the offensive line. We've settled it. We fixed it. We have something that can function in the NFL and help us win. We just have to keep our eye on the center and the guard spots. Injury and age at center. And he's so good, they're going to play better when he's on the field. That's been proven time and time again. But you get my point. So I strength and weakness on the side card, I have in question marks because it's hard to nail down an actual. That's a strength. Special teams, maybe. I think that says a lot of the state of the franchise when you're going, hey, our best position group may be our special teams, really and truly. In weakness, we have pieces here and there. Are they ideal? In some cases, no. In some cases, something may be there. Wide receiver, you're going, man, if both those guys, Olavi and Shaheed, can just get healthy and come back. We add, again, at 9, if McMillan would happen to fall, 6'3", all 6'3", 215 of hardcore physical body, make tough catches guy. All of a sudden you're going, whew. Now that's a receiving core because he's going to play on the outside, and we can use both Olavi and Shaheed in the slot and outside. And all of a sudden, we moved to 11 personnel with those 3 guys going. You got a contested catch guy. You got some yak guys. You got 2 guys, and McMillan can go deep. He's just not a burner. So you got 3 guys that can go get the deep ball. 2 of them really fast. 1 of them insanely fast. And now you're looking around going, man, we got a pretty tight top 3 receiver core. We've just got to supplement it. You get my point. So when we look forward, and we will be looking forward Tuesday, and I'll get to that in just 1 minute as I wrap it up. I think it's important to break down that roster. Look at that 61. Realize as of right now, it ain't 61, it's 57. As of that 57, 3 of them, we're really hoping to get back. We're probably going to need all 3 of them, but we just don't know. So the remaining 54, who can we really slot? Who's going to start? Who's a backup that's going to have to step up? Who's a developmental guy that's got to really step up? I wouldn't bet all my money on that 58% that I came up with being correct. But I think a couple percentage points in either direction, it's probably fairly accurate. And I don't know how the rest of the NFL, when you break down their rosters, would fall into that category, but I do know we're a 5-win team. And there's just really, it's the question marks, the one behind strength and the one behind weakness. These question marks are going to hang out, and they're going to hang out all this offseason. We've got to make moves. Not really sure what we already have in the building that we can say yes, definitely, or hell no. We're in the middle on almost every single player that's on the roster right now. Yeah. That's all I got for you today. Yes, I know it's Sunday. Normally we'd be live streaming. Had some stuff come up, and it kind of works out a little bit better because Tuesday, I'm down here in the deep south in South Louisiana. We're expected to get some snow, probably not enough to bother most places in the country, but of all the stuff that can happen around here, hurricanes, marsh fires, flooding, rain, we seem to be able to deal with all that. But here, an inch of snow is like 10 feet of snow just about anywhere else. So they're shutting everything down come Tuesday when the storm hits. So I figured let's just move Sunday night because I'm going to be stuck here anyway in the house all day. Let's go ahead and move the live stream to Tuesday afternoon. And the reason why I want to get this video in, obviously, let me know what you think, because I think it's going to be a big topic of conversation coming in on Tuesday. I think we do want to poke our head at the rookie draft, especially number 9 and number 40, because it's 2 picks. I really starting to do a shallow dive, and this will still be a shallow dive on Tuesday, but I think it's worth having some conversations about what we might be able to find there. I mean, one of the things you got to do before you figuring that out is do what we did today and take a hard look at that roster, the 57 to 54 names you've already got there, and go, what will we be looking at? Tuesday's a good day to start it because we're still waiting 2 teams left. They play tomorrow night to see if their underclassmen are going to declare if they're going back to school, but everybody else is filed. So we have a pretty good number to choose from. Who's filed for the draft? Who's going to be there? So you know the guys out of eligibility. Now you have a really good number on the guys that still have eligibility. That's like, now I'm foregoing college. I'm going to the pros. Then I think Tuesday's a good time to have that conversation, and we're going to have a good time doing it. So that's it for today. I'm about to sign off. Before I do, please go ahead, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I mean, this is one I think is very subjective. There's probably not a whole lot of right answers, and I think the biggest takeaway that I can give is you've got question marks at strength and weakness. You probably have a roster that needs to be completely rebuilt and turned over. I'm not saying to do it all in 2025. I don't think you could. But I think by 2026, if we acknowledge the problem and we start working on it in this draft and whatever free agency is going to look like for us this year, we can get a head start on 2026 going, okay, now when we pull up strength and weaknesses, we can pull away those question marks and we go, this is our strength. We worked on that 2025. We nailed these positions down. Let's get started on the other ones. So, like, share, subscribe. Give me the whole 9 yards. And I will see you Tuesday in the we get to say this about once every 10 years in the winter wonderland of South Louisiana. So while I'm here at the house, we're going to talk NFL draft and the Saints spots in it. But until then, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.